Good afternoon. So I stand by my original premise from earlier posts that the Vancouver Canucks will get out of this defensive mess that they're in, and but again, they need some extended time to practice and go over the details. That being said, yeah, the last few days there have been a lot of people in social media and at thereabouts saying that Benning should be fired, that maybe Travis Green should be fired. More about Benning just because of the construction of this team. But I'd like to rehash some of the old details from 2008. Okay, dialing back to April 9th, 2014. The Canucks named President of Hockey Operations Trevor Linden, replacing Mike Gillis. Linden hired Jim Benning to replace Mike Gillis. He got Jim Benning as he was assistant GM in Boston. They know each other going back to the 80s. On July 25th, 2018, Linden left the organization. He resigned. According to all the sources from the time and some tweets that were sent out by Francisco Aquilini, Linden was at odds with, well, not the tweets, but people read into it. He was at odds with ownership over the direction of the club. He wanted a slow, more patient build. Aquilini was a little bit more, he wanted to be more expedient with the process. So I guess frustrations boiled over and Linden decided to resign. Linden, well, according to the stories back then, Linden even consulted with the Winnipeg Jets over their process, what things they learned, and going through the whole drafting process and the building process, and so that he could figure out ways to move the Canuck franchise ahead. It's been said that ownership was responsible for Beagle coming in, Russell and Schaller, and Schaller was later traded off last year in the Toffoli deal, and as we all know, Toffoli didn't stay, so we lost a bit on that one. So after Linden left and such, there was a lot of criticism thrown towards Jim Benning that he was not loyal to Trevor Linden. He stayed on, and anyways, all that being said, and Benning is still there, really. Who should pay the price for the current situation if this team doesn't improve? If this team does not make the playoffs this year after making the playoffs, going a couple of rounds last summer, but then not retaining certain players. I know there's cap issues and stuff like that, but the current team is a mess defensively, and maybe I'm being optimistic in saying that they can fix it. But if they don't, and we already know that the ownership obviously has a huge role in the direction of this team, will the Aquilini group decide to fire Benning to fix the problem? Because, really, he stayed on, but they're pretty much responsible for a lot of what's gone on. Or do you think they should just outright fire Benning? And it's an issue that I don't think Benning deserves to be fired over. Given what we know from back in 2018, it looks like Benning's really doesn't have all the say here. And he's kind of the middleman in the situation. I think they've done a really good job of drafting under his tenure. And people argue with me about that. Oh, yeah, it's the scouts, blah, blah, blah. But he makes the final decision on who gets drafted and who doesn't. And there's lots of people, but they should have drafted Kachuk over Ulevi. Yeah, well, they got most of them right. Every now and again, you're going to make a mistake. I know they needed a blue-chip defenseman at the time as well. Let's hypothesize a little bit further. Say they don't make the playoffs and it's still a mess throughout the season and things haven't improved and Aquilini's decide to fire Benning. How difficult does it get to attract somebody new to come in and do a GM job when they know they're not going to have full say in what happens? Because a lot of these guys are great talent and they like to have autonomy and they have a vision going forward. So I'd like to know what your thoughts are. Please leave the comment if you hear this. Cheers.